I guess, what is a moderator? And I think it's someone who is part of the community, whatever that is. On this, it's on a platform, it's on a live stream, it's on YouTube. TYT streams out to all kinds of different platforms, right? YouTube is just one of them. It's there's Twitch, there's Roku, there's Pluto, there's live television, there's all these other kinds of things. But there's actually Facebook too, which I don't think a lot of people knew wasn't moderated like YouTube and Twitch and everything was. But that was the resources that we had. And in 2020, early 2020, I got the very amazing opportunity. I saw a blue name and a wrench in the chat, and I said hello to that person, and I asked if I could become a moderator, because I was watching the show a lot during that time. There was a pandemic, and I lost my job. I had worked for a place for 4 years, and I got laid off, and my benefits were cut, and I started watching the damage report very regularly. And I was dragging, there before that even became a thing, right? But I was just a member. I was just a person hanging out. I was just one of those many chatters that comes to these shows and participates and chats. But I found it to be a very toxic space. I don't know if any of y'all remember the way that TYT chat used to be, and that all chats, they face this kind of problem of people who quote unquote troll the chat. But on TYT, it was particularly bad because TYT is a leftist space, or, declared themselves, home of progressives, and were leading this progressive charge, and were saying that they were unapologetic about that. And I was really drawn to TYT. I learned so much from TYT, and I was a part of the community there, and I began to make friends there. I saw there was human kindness out there, but there was also the toxicity, and I wanted to do something, anything that I could do.
That there was something wrong with the chat. It did not represent the values of the show or of the network. And so you stepped in to be community volunteers in order to help make it a not just a better place to be, a healthier environment, but more in line with what the show was promoting as far as their own values and principles and mission statement. That's correct, right?
Into it, and it's been slowly changing as more moderators have been getting added in. So when I started, there was less moderators, and they were actually broken up by YouTube public moderators and YouTube members moderators. And honestly, I didn't really interact much with the members moderators, except for, I think, Lindsay, that's technically what you were qualified or like under when I first started. And then we just kind of did away with that after a while, and it was just YouTube moderators in general. And you could sign up to choose to moderate either the public or the members chat. And you fill out an application. The person who sort of, I don't want to say like runs the YouTube moderators, maybe like facilitates communications and resources between the moderators and the corporation or the network.
Like a liaison of sorts, somebody keeping it organized.
Yeah. You sure do, Zane. And they would provide us with the resources. Honestly, all of the like Nightbot commands. I think almost all of them had been done by Vitengale and Adrian. They had gone through and coded all of those themselves. And when I joined, I was kind of I felt more like I was thrown in and kind of sink or swim. I started off moderating TDR with Adrian, and she really sort of helped me with figuring out how they kept their notes, because we had to keep track of notes and actions and interactions.
What are notes?
So with in regards to troll raids, especially, those are kind of things that will be coordinated by other streamers, other channels, and they will just massively flood a channel with either individual accounts spreading hate or people who have multiple accounts spreading hate. And we have to individually ban every single one of those accounts, as well as take note of every single ban that we do. So when you have something like a troll raid, like people think it's like, oh, it's so easy, you just block people, like you don't. It's like, no, we really were expected to do this incredibly professionally. And there was no appreciation, like none, coming from the staff. Like I wouldn't even just say like it wasn't great or it wasn't enough. I'm like, I mean, okay, I'm sorry. The mod team had pushed like, or was, they had set up before I started a quarterly meeting with one of the hosts. So it would be all of the mods on all of the platforms. And we would get to talk kind of with one of the on-air hosts. That was to be our reward for all the hard work we did. And that was supposed to be our thanks, I guess. And it never really felt thankful, never really felt appreciated. And the amount of work that we were expected to do for free is beyond the pale.
Was there any sort of it sounds to me like there was a lack of consideration for what's essentially a volunteer position, a very altruistic group of people who are there to uphold values that they not only believe in as far as the network, the Young Turks was concerned, but also in their own lives. Like, you guys wouldn't be upholding values that you didn't live by, right? So what sort of consideration was there for you? And am I wrong? Because it sounds like the dynamics are so all over the place that your job could be different every day. You're suddenly in the line of fire, so to speak, for trolls or people who were happy yesterday and disappointed today. And so what are those dynamics like for you guys? And
yeah, there was zero. It was basically a message, a direct message from our liaison, let's say, to me with some links to documents on Google. And the next morning, I just went to go watch the show like I'd been doing for a couple of years at that point. And all of a sudden, I'm gonna have a blue wrench, and there's stuff happening. Like, I didn't know I was gonna have to show or hide stuff or put things in notes. Or
explain show or hide.
Anything, none of that. Just like
so comments come up and it says held for review. Do you want to show it or hide it? Right.
Correct. And then there's the 3 dots on the side that lets you either put them in a timeout or ban them from the channel completely. I didn't have any. I mean, it could have been so easy to provide me with links to documents to explain how to do these things. That just wasn't provided. It was literally drop you into a completely new environment. There might be piranha swimming over there, and sink or die. Or swim if you're really good at it. So yeah, it was a really rough experience, I'm gonna say.
When I first started moderating, it was trial by fire. It was like every restaurant job I had ever done, I started on Mother's Day, which meant that I started during election coverage, which was Blockorama, because it was just troll after troll after troll. Now, as time went on, we started to do bi-weekly meetings. Spectrophonic was not able to come to a bunch of those. And what we were doing is we were rewriting the core values that the moderation platform works on. We finished rewriting that. And then a lot of things started happening. We started to notice that when we post core values and people get timed out or removed for certain things that they say, inciting violence, attacking another person, ableist language, sexual objectification, those type of things. The hosts on some of the shows would actually put forth those ideas first and trigger the chat. So it's kind of hard to moderate a chat on core values that your hosts aren't even abiding by. Now, those were some of the tenets, the main tenets that we followed when that open letter was drafted. Each one of those bullet points is a core value.
Was this the sort of situation where it was like, well, you guys wanted to be here on your own? I mean, we didn't ask you to be here. Leave if you want. Is it one of those situations where it's like, you don't have to do this, you can always leave? Is that how you felt anyway?
Well, yeah, that was kind of the initiative that was taken with me personally when I started. Is we were told in the beginning, there's like a meeting with the mod coordinator, and the thing that she said was that if you do not want to do this, if you have a change of heart, you can always leave. And I intended initially to be around long term. I mean, I waited literally, because at the time I decided to join, uh, the mod program was going, I think, through some sort of reorganization that took longer than expected. And I was basically, I went through a process, which was known as shadowing, where I had to shadow the existing mods in the YouTube chat. I had to kind of interact with the people in the chat. I had to basically just kind of know the ins and outs of the organization, so to speak. And it really kind of, I'm struggling with my words here, excuse me.
You're doing fine.
It really kind of it was kind of from what I was seeing in the background, the kind of the what was it, maybe Adrian can jump in here again, about not getting paid. That was one of the things that she had told me in the beginning, was we've been trying to fight for this for so long because, as far as I knew, 5 of us, and I include myself, all have disabilities. And, we get by with what we can get by. A lot of, like, for me personally, I'm on a fixed income, but that doesn't mean that applies to everyone else. I think for our hard work, we could at least get some sort of compensation for, just being able to survive. And it's not like we were asking for like $1 million, that kind of thing. It was just like something to, like, allow us to kind of be able to pay our rent,
I gotta say on that note, like, there are even like leftist Twitch streamers who are like, why weren't they given at least a stipend?
Mhm.
Like, that is something that would be given in most situations. Like, at least, something a little bit monthly for, here, we are asking you to do something. Here is something.
It was a little bit different for me, I guess, with the documentation because I actually modded completely on mobile rather than, desktop. My disability is greatly in my hands, so keyboard just doesn't work for me. And basically, and I worked in members a lot, we didn't do a whole lot of documenting in members because we just didn't get trolls in there since it was behind a paywall. But when I did go out into public, there's I guess a lot don't realize. I mean, there is a lot that is left up to our discretion as far as if we would immediately read a comment and say, "Oh, that person's a troll," and whether we were gonna, you know, decide to just watch them, to time them out, just removing. And I know the all caps thing was a huge issue in with trolls and in public, and why it became kind of a rule. We tried to steer people away from using the all caps, and that honestly was a lot of the documenting, um, because people would do it to be spiteful rather than just, hey, okay, I'm an adult. That's a rule here. I want to participate, so I'll follow it. And, it's not like we wanted to go after people, but we did have discretion and we would do our best. I mean, I think this is why we were all really good at our jobs. We would do our best to kind of talk with people, figure them out. Are you really here to troll us? Or do you just, are you just at the beginning of your left journey? And there's a lot of people I look at now in the chats that are have gotten, like, people immediately thought they were trolls, and they they end up being just some of the biggest part of our community.
There's a natural sort of leadership that occurs in these situations, and that somebody is just naturally, you could say that you're a born leader, or maybe it just happened when this group formed, and that it was very organic the way you folks came together. It's not like you were all, hey, we should all go be mods at the same time. That isn't how this came about. And so when this group came together, somebody naturally became like the leader. And I don't know if it's just a coincidence that they were there longer, because it doesn't seem like that would make you any more skilled. It seems like it would make you more used to the way things are around here, so to speak.
We've become friends. I feel like I've built friendships and relationships with people, in various chats. And like when I hear a shout out, I like, oh yeah, I know that person. I have experience with that person. We get to know people in whatever ways that they want to share, with us, however, far that is and stuff like that. But, I think it is a community, and I was definitely trying to serve that community the best that I could. And we are a community as well. The mod team is one of the best moderator teams on the planet. I really think the culture that we built there, it has been amazing. And actually other moderators have like copied our copy pasta and used the way that our culture of chatting and things, like not using ableism and body shaming and racism and other forms of bigotry when criticizing, or like resorting to ad hominem attacks and things like that. And I definitely, I think I have leadership abilities and things like that. And I do, like, I try not to, shout it too loud, but I was the first YouTube moderator for the Young Turks, and on their YouTube channel. So, I've been through a lot with them. Times where I was moderating in the beginning, where I was moderating members chat, I was moderating TYT main chat, and then actually for a long time, TDR channel would mirror, our TYT channel actually would mirror the damage report. So they were both playing the damage report simultaneously on both channels with their own live chats. So that was 3 different live chats on 3 different streams. And then there was also the TYT, gosh, there was actually a whole campaign to bring it back. But there was the evening restream of the Young Turks as well, and that was another show. And there was the damage report, and there was Staying Home with Josh Fox, and then there was another, the conversation. The conversation was 30 minutes before main show, and then main show was there. And then, there's member streams for bonus episode and things like that. So there were a lot of streams.
By and large, your unpaid volunteer role came with a lack of organization. And we talked about why that may or may not be, but that's the fact, lack of organization. Also talked about how there could have been some sort of compensation. We talked about why that may or may not be the case, but there wasn't any, right? Training. We talked about what training and resources you were provided with. We talked about why that may or may not have been the case, but the fact is there wasn't enough. And so right there, those three things are enough for things to be problematic, right? I know if I am getting paid, I have days where I don't feel like working. So if I'm not getting paid, I definitely have days where I feel like I'm not working or I don't feel like working. The values that you're meant to uphold are also the values that you live by, are shifting by the people who, wrote these down, who presented these values to you, these core values. When those are shifting in a way that you say, well, hold on now, that's not what we're meant to uphold, and that's not what we live by in our personal lives. We don't want to be here anymore. You made a move. And the way you made your move was it wasn't immediate. Here's what I want to go back to. What I think is the most important part of the resignation letter. And that is that very first sentence.
A letter to TYT owner, staff, and volunteers. We are sorry to say that we are resigning from providing TYT with our unpaid labor. We have had agreed to moderate for a strong progressive channel who had strong core values. Over the past year, hosts, mostly on the main show, have allowed their core values to slip, making us question whether they even have those as values. Some specific ones include every action we take is to support our mission. We participate with a positive and productive attitude. We are inclusive. We lead by example. We participate in constructive communication. We check our ego at the door, and we act with dignity. First point, every action we take is to support our mission. The mission is to boldly pursue the truth, challenge the establishment, and to drive positive change. We fail to see how bad-mouthing and insulting and belittling the unhoused helps to drive any form of positive change, or how it challenges the establishment. Corporate media and the wealthy look down on the unhoused, and Anna's anti-homeless rant is in direct support of that mission. Failure to provide any ideas on how to help that don't include barbaric measures, only dogpiling onto the problems that the unhoused have across the nation by furthering negative stereotypes is the opposite of positive change for that community. Point 2. We participate with a positive and productive attitude. Failure to learn from one another and having an understanding attitude is what leads to issues like Anna's recent transphobic remarks and her birthing person meltdown. She is refusing to learn from the immense pushback from the community and former fellow hosts such as Benny Carrillo and Sandy Lovas. These positive hosts who help others outside of those communities understand and gain more insight to leave the network pushes the audience by taking away that knowledge and life experiences. Point 3. We are inclusive. How can one be inclusive if they fail to learn from the mistakes, apologize for the lack of knowledge, and grow as a person? Anna clearly stated during an interview on another show, I'm uncomfortable with talking with non-white people. That is the least inclusive statement we have ever heard. Core tenets of progressive politics include fighting for the oppressed, especially when it is unpopular. We act based on values, not on what polls say. It is incredibly harmful to marginalized groups like non-binary folks to not be included in the language that directly affects them. This is inherently regressive and exclusionary. Point 4. We lead by example. While moderating, all of us have had to get the chat under control over statements made by the hosts. This tends to happen on the main show more than any other TYT live chat. The hosts make comments that are exclusive, sexist, racist, transphobic. With TYT being such a large platform and having such a far reach, these toxic statements and views are heard by the viewers, who start to believe them. It continues to perpetuate harmful stereotypes and pushes the network to the right, not the left. We understand that not everyone will be in the same space, and we need to meet people where they're at. How can we meet someone who doesn't want us to meet them, but just wants to pull us towards them? This has been making the network exclusionary to fellow leftists and those who are dipping their toe into the progressive sphere. There's a worry about the main show host being stuck in their own echo chamber to the point that they can no longer lead by example. We participate in constructive communication. We work to actively spread mutual respect and to dampen aggression and distrust. We work outwardly and cohesively, not inwardly and divisively. We need diversity in our community and strive for it. I understand wanting to be an ally, but if you don't listen to those from the community you're trying to ally yourself with and try to understand why what you said was hurtful or wrong, and that it is on them for refusing to participate in those conversations that need to happen to promote growth and to help spread those values. We check our ego at the door. There seems to be a serious ego problem with Cenk and Anna on the main show. Whether neither is able to check their ego and allow themselves to be wrong, or even be able to confront the possibility of them being wrong. Within 3 months, Anna went from not having an issue with trans people to saying that they're uppity. She has been in the media long enough to know that it is hard to believe that she just got swayed by someone else's talking points. Despite this and the pushback, she gave the saddest non-apology that was only lacking a ukulele, and placed blame on Twitter, saying that people pushed Benny to quit. None of us have ever seen anyone talking about Benny leaving or needing to leave due to transphobia. Anna is refusing to take responsibility for her own actions and statements. We act with dignity. Refusing to own up to your own actions, statements, and the shows you go on and the topics you discuss is a lack of dignity. If you want to go on another's podcast and state that you don't like being around or talking to anyone who isn't white, but refuse to say it on your own show, then you have no dignity and don't care about the communities you're talking about. We'd like to thank you for understanding, and we hope that this will help wake up either the hosts or the chat to these right-wing talking points and the hatred that is currently being spewed on the main show. Duly signed YouTube moderators Whitingale, Lindsay Robb, Adrian Vixen, myself, Roller Dragon, Goddess Four Winds, Orbzilla, Zero PE, John Ross, and Spectrophonic. Thank you.